Welcome to the Blues Reaction Show. I'm your host, AJ Nance, here at Arch City Sports. The Blues are coming off a massive 3-1 victory at home versus the Colorado Avalanche tonight on Sunday evening. And it was a game that was a full 60-minute effort from the boys tonight, and we're going to dive into all of that in this episode. Before we do that, make sure to like this video on YouTube if you're listening or viewing over there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel over there as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Amazon Music, make sure to follow the podcast over there and rate the podcast a 5-star. That would be much appreciated. And before we dive into everything, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Shoot 360 St. Louis. Shoot 360 St. Louis is a high-tech basketball training facility featuring the same shooting technology utilized by all the NBA teams, combined with excellent coaching. Unlock your game at Shoot 360 St. Louis. Register for a free 1-hour workout by downloading the Shoot 360 mobile app or visit www.shoot360stl.com. Go follow Shoot 360 St. Louis on Instagram. Follow us as well at Arch City Sports on Instagram and on TikTok for daily St. Louis sports content. As I said at the very beginning, a 3-1 victory for the Blues over the Colorado Avalanche. And I told you guys yesterday during the Jets Blues reaction show that this Avalanche team should not be the same Avs team as we are used to seeing, being that Makar, Taves, and Mackinnon, all playing in the Four Nations tournament and then playing a second night of a back-to-back after losing to the Predators the night before. Coming to this one, it was exactly what I predicted it to be, honestly, and they were not as explosive and dynamic as they usually are, those three players. Now, Devon Taves did get a goal in the first period. It was a deflection from Makar, I believe it was Makar, at the point, and almost a little too much of a fluky goal, in my opinion. Not much Binnington could have done about it. Weird bounce. I don't even think Taves had expectations of that going into the net. A fluky bounce into the net for that one. But it was 1-0 after that goal, and it seemed like we completely rebounded. Not saying that we played poor in the first period, but you're coming off a hard-fought, shootout loss in a game the night before versus the Jets, where you felt like you could win that game. Being in the middle of it, there were several opportunities for us to take complete control of that Jets game and just could not find a way to do it, even all the way at the end when Kyle Connor got that entry into the zone, and we had a chance to clear it and just could not get that job done. And obviously he threw it on net and got another deflection there to tie it up and eventually go win in a shootout. You come into this game, kind of, I don't want to say not well rested, but you're a little beat up after last night. I mean, last night versus the Jets was a physical game, and honestly, this one was even more physical. Yes, you did have the whole last week and a half off, and I think that might have helped in this back-to-back situation here, but it was 1-0 after one, and we could have folded after, a fluky goal like that, and you just don't know how it's going to go the rest of this one. And we did not fold whatsoever. It was a game where we rebounded very well, and from the jump we had a lot of energy and gumption and force from all four lines and defensemen, the defenseman group. But coming in the second period, it was throwing pucks on net to test Mackenzie Blackwood, and we got our first goal of the game in this one. Braden Shen, a rebound goal, his 12th goal of the year from who else than Thomas and Buchnevich, who have been phenomenal in these last two games. A little bit later in the second period, Colton Parayko gets a tip-in goal on the rush, his career-high 13th goal of the season. And then later in the second period, with 10 seconds left, the Avalanche defenseman was not, I don't even know who that defenseman was at the moment, but he was not getting back. It was almost a lazy effort play, not getting back. And Justin Falk on the wing kind of just threw it in front of the net, and Dylan Holloway was crashing hard and tipped it in, deflection goal for Dylan Holloway, his 17th goal of the year. And that was the turning point for me as a 2-1 game at this point, with about 10 seconds left. Avs bench and team and fans are probably thinking it's a 2-1 game going into the third, and 2-1 game is absolutely, nobody has a complete advantage in a game like that. But going up 3-1 on a goal like that at the end of the second period with Jordan Binnington playing rock solid in net, I think, in my opinion, that was the turning point in this one where that happened, and I feel like the Avalanche kind of lost some hope and belief and, some momentum as well. We gained all the momentum in that moment with Holloway scoring that goal. So big time move there by Justin Falk to make that pass in front of the net. Holloway crashing hard. And we're going to dive a little bit more into Justin Falk's performance, not just tonight, but also yesterday versus the Jets as well, because I thought it's been a different Justin Falk that we've been saying than we've seen all year long. The third period comes around. It was a very defensive third period. Now, the Avs, we were beating them in shots on net all night long until the third period. And they just started peppering Jordan Binnington at the closer to the end of the game tonight. And obviously at the very end in a 6-5 matchup, they just kept throwing pucks on net, and Jordan Binnington was rock solid. It wasn't just him, though. I thought the defensive group was great tonight. I thought Cam Fowler moved the puck really well. I thought Ryan Suter played tremendous defense as they honored him before the game, and this one playing his 1,500th game. And even though he's only played about 50 of those 1,500 with us, honoring him before the game, that was a really cool moment. I thought he was really solid in this one. I thought Broberg moved the puck really well. I thought Parayko did what he's done all year, and he's been a top 10 defenseman in all of hockey. And then you have Justin Falk, which I just mentioned, and Justin it's been a year, probably his worst year as a Blue, saying that the last couple of years he's actually been pretty solid. And, he's had streaks in the past where he's not been his best. This year overall, just not a good season whatsoever from him, offensively and defensively. And this one, and versus the Jets, he was absolutely phenomenal on both ends of the ice. 2 assists in this one, though. His 4th 2-point game of the season. And I was extremely impressed with Justin Falk. And obviously it all led to Jordan Binnington, who didn't have to make any exceptional saves tonight, but he made the really nice, rock-solid ones, sliding over, after a seam pass, wing to wing. He was sliding over perfectly within the crease there, and had made about 3 or 4 saves in a row at the very end of this one, and a 6-on-5 for the Avs at the very end. And, I don't know how much of an impact the Four Nations tournament had on, let's say, Mackinnon and Makar and Taves, because when it comes to not their fatigue, but because I definitely believe there was a fatigue issue for them in this matchup. But when you see, they were on the same team as Jordan Binnington in the Four Nations and tournament, and you see what he did in the final. Going to this one, I think that Jamie Rivers mentioned it on the broadcast about how, what's the thought process for Mackinnon and Makar and Taves going into this one? Do you have to be extra special and extra, accurate with everything you're doing on the ice, especially shooting the puck on Binnington, because how locked in he is? And I don't know if that had a huge impact or effect on those 3 superstars that the Avalanche have, but they were not themselves tonight. And defensively, I thought we did really well from the forwards, putting pressure on guys like Mackinnon and Makar, but also the back end, like I just mentioned, and Binnington being rock solid. I thought it was a perfect balance of all of it tonight. Before we get into my key takeaways from tonight, 2 major lineup changes in this one. Tucker was not in this one. Nick Leddy getting some minutes. Tucker out for this one. And obviously, as I just mentioned, Binnington and net being phenomenal. Joel Hofer was not in net for this one. Jordan Binnington back in net. Let's take a look at the key takeaways from this one. There was a lot of good, honestly, to take away from this one. Starting with the Nathan Walker and WTF fourth line, they have been playing absolutely phenomenal. Nathan Walker, one of the 3 stars of the night at the game, and I believe he was the 2nd star. Shen was the 3rd, and Falk was the 1st. He did not have a point tonight. He's not going to score a whole lot for you, but this guy brings the energy every single night, more and more throughout the season, and he's dropping the gloves now, his 4th fight of the year, and this one, team lead in that category. I believe he had 3 hits on the night, 2 block shots as well. And not just him on that line. I thought Radek Faksa has been really solid these last 2 games. Defensively, that's what you expect from him. And Toropchenko, I've talked about it on here before, only 1 goal on the year, not producing as much as you would think he would after these past couple of years offensively this year. But I also think these last 2 games defensively, he's been really solid. Long reach, as we've well documented here on this podcast and throughout all of St. Louis. Everybody knows what he can do potentially defensively and what kind of mismatch and advantage that we have with a guy with that type of length. I thought he was really solid on the forecheck tonight, and entering the zone, I thought he was really, really solid as well tonight. So shout out that 4th line. Also the 3rd line, and I'm going to get to that in just a second. Those 2 lines have been really solid. Even though they're not scoring a whole lot these last 2 games, they're producing a lot more in other areas. Justin Falk, I mentioned him a couple times already. These last 2 games versus the Jets and now the Avalanche, this has looked like the old Justin Falk. This doesn't look like the Justin Falk that we've had this year, and I just wonder how much of that break helped him. Justin Falk's a guy in the past that has been known to play through injuries and not be very vocal about it, and his play might be reflecting what he's been potentially dealing with behind the scenes injury-wise. I don't know that for a fact. That is my assumption, because these last 2 games he has been a different player completely, and he's been a playmaker offensively for us. 2 assists tonight, but defensively really smooth, entering the zone really nicely as well. That's something I saw tonight a lot. Is not just Falk, but Parayko obviously, and Broberg, and even Cam Fowler a little bit. All 4 of those guys being very aggressive and entering the zone rather than, a potential forward entering the zone. Those 4 guys entered it themselves, became very aggressive, and put pressure early on, every single shift early on the Avalanche, which I really like to see. But Justin Falk, these last 2 games, 2 assists tonight, great play last night. Coach Monty said it at the very end during his press conference, kind of took the words out of my mouth personally, how he was really good last night, but even better tonight. And I loved what I saw from Justin Falk. Robert Thomas and Pavel Buchnevich have looked elite in these first 2 games back from the Four Nations tournament break. And again, I don't know how much. I would have to say at least some part of that, rest being had throughout that break has had to have helped these guys, because they look spry and fresh and are flying around. And Robert Thomas is, making all the right plays. Made a really big time defensive play late in this one on a 6-on-5 that the Avalanche had. Stuck out his stick, perfect anticipation of the pass coming. Got a line change because of it, because the guys were gassed. And I know it was a 3-1 game, and we probably had it in wraps anyway with only 1 minute left. But those type of little plays like that don't go unnoticed. I thought that was really big time from Thomas, let alone what he's doing offensively, which is producing big time in these first 2 games back. Buchnevich has looked like a completely different player as well, almost on that Justin Falk level. He has become a little more aggressive in these last 2 games, shooting the puck on net. Had put Jake Neighbors in several opportunities to score tonight, and Jakey Boy just could not finish any of them, sadly. But Buchnevich, his playmaking has looked really good. His passing has been crisp. He did have a poor penalty in this one. A tripping call that he was kind of arguing, though it was pretty obvious that he tripped him. But overall, I really like what Pavel has been doing these last 2 games, and there's a reason why we have gotten 3 of the potential 4 points these first 2 games back versus 2 of the better teams in all of the National Hockey League. And Justin Falk, Robert Thomas, Buchnevich, and that 4th line of the Nathan Walker line has a huge say in that. So last but not least here, Binnington and Parayko. In fact, we talked about it a little bit. Are they going to be able to carry any type of confidence, momentum to the whole team from that Four Nations tournament? And I 100% think there is some momentum building here. Binnington looked locked in just like he did at the very end of the Four Nations final during the U.S. And Parayko scoring his 13th tonight was really solid last night. That dude has been arguably our best player all year, having a career year, and is getting better and better with age. So absolutely love to see that from Parayko. And I think those two guys can, spearhead what we can potentially do the rest of the season with the Kraken on Tuesday night, and then we have a really tough one against the Capitals. This will be a good, test this week with the Capitals. But we'll get there when we get there. We still have to get to the through the Kraken first. But love what I've seen from those two guys leading us. And definitely think they can, build off that momentum for the Four Nations tournament and carry that to the entire organization here in St. Louis. As I mentioned at the very beginning, this was a complete 60-minute effort from all four lines, all four defensive, pairings, and Jordan Binnington. I thought everybody was locked in tonight. I honestly have no complaints about anybody. The only one, and I'm not going to complain about him, but I did think it was interesting late in this when Matthew Joseph was taken off of that third line, and Jake Neighbors, was kind of playing double minutes playing on that third line as well. So don't know if that was injury related from Monty, or if that was just he didn't like what he was seeing from Joseph tonight. There are times where Joseph kind of goes disappearing. He disappears sometimes. So yeah, I'm not complaining about Matthew Joseph's performance tonight whatsoever, but overall, very pleased with all four lines, all four defensive pairings, and or three defensive pairings. I absolutely loved it from everybody tonight. I think the biggest thing that we've seen these first two games back is the top two lines are scoring for us, which actually we desperately need because we talked about it yesterday. The third and fourth line with those six guys, there's not going to be a whole lot of scoring outside of potentially Zachary Bolduc. Sonny's not going to score for you. Joseph's not going to score for you. Walker, Toropchenko, Foxa, they're not going to score much for you either. So we need, the Robert Thomas, Booch, Neighbors line to produce a lot of goals. We need Kyrou to, continue his strong season. Shen to get a little more in the scoring action, and then Dylan Holloway's had a great year as well. We need those top two lines to do a bulk of our scoring, and we have seen that these last two games, scoring three goals in each of them, and both I believe those two lines have pretty much produced all the goals outside of the defenseman goal from Parayko. So they're doing that, but the bottom two lines are doing the dirty work, and they're doing a phenomenal job at it. Even a guy like Oscar Sundqvist, who's had a not so great season, definitely moments in this year where not his best play whatsoever. There was another, just like that Robert Thomas play late in this one, Sonny with a tremendous play late in this one, blocking a shot with about, again, it was only like 40 seconds left, but it was a long shift for him, and he blocked a shot, cleared it really quick, and then busted his butt over to the bench to get a line change. So little plays like that, man, I just get you fired up, and I absolutely love to see that from both the third and fourth line. I thought all four lines played really heavy though defensively, but you love to see that little dirty work being done by that third and fourth line. I mentioned with Nathan Walker and Toropchenko, Foxa, but also shout out that Sundqvist, Bolduc, Joseph line as well. Let's get into our 3 stars of the night. It's going to be slightly different than the Blues' actual 3 stars at Enterprise Center. My third star is going to go to Nathan Walker. A fight tonight, 3 hits and 2 block shots. Can't say enough great things about Nathan and his performance tonight and as of late. My number 2 star is going to go to Jordan Binnington, and I have to give him some love, even though he didn't get any at Enterprise Center tonight from the 3 stars that they had. He also did not win any type of the MVP of the tournament or MVP of the final there at the Four Nations tournament, which I did not think was, I understand giving it to McDavid because he had the game-winning goal, but I thought Binnington was as important as you could get to Canada winning that tournament. So I do have to give him some love tonight. 28 for 29 in net. Again, didn't have to do anything super extra, out of the ordinary, but I thought he was really, really solid and rock solid in net for us. And last but not least, you have Justin Falk as my number 1 star of the night, just like it was at Enterprise Center. 2 assists, but that does not say, everything from what he has done these last 2 games. Really solid defensively, moving the puck well, strong on his skates, and I've really enjoyed watching Justin Falk play these last 2 nights, and hopefully there's more to come because he could be a difference maker for us moving forward, not just offensively, but especially on the defensive end. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Blues Reaction Show here at Arch City Sports. A 3-1 victory versus the Colorado Avalanche. We are back in action on Tuesday night at home versus Seattle Kraken. We have 3 games this week. Tuesday versus the Kraken, Thursday versus the Capitals, that's a big one, and then Saturday also at home versus the Los Angeles Kings. So make sure to tune in to all of these Blues reaction shows to come this week. Also the Billiken reaction shows. I believe there's a game Tuesday night, so on Wednesday morning there will be one of those, and also Sunday morning after the game versus Loyola Chicago on Saturday. But also, if you have not checked out the Monday full episode of covering everything sports-wise here in St. Louis, make sure to go check that out, and I will see you guys for that one, the Blues reaction shows, the Billiken reaction shows, and go follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Arch City Sports. Like and subscribe on YouTube, and follow and rate the podcast on Spotify or Amazon Music if you are listening over there. I will see you guys throughout the rest of this week with much Cardinals, Blues, St. Louis City, Billiken news to share. So I will see you guys on all platforms throughout the week. Have a great week.